Fine.
The primary election is on March 3rd, 2020, with general election November 3rd, 2020. And I'm stoked, y'all. I love elections. Are my Super Bowl. The drama, the speeches, the promises, and the thing that someone did in 4th grade, like just randomly showing up on social media to get spread around. It's a hoot and a half, really. So, who's saying the disclaimer? Who lost the coin toss?
I did it last time.
No,
no,
actually,
I didn't.
your
My mic broke.
Yeah.
The opinions that we're about to give are those of us and not this station, so please don't give Casey or Charlie any heat. You want to give us heat, call us directly.
I've got permission to give out their phone numbers now, so I'll totally do that.
Well, I don't mind putting mine out there, 347-2372. So you know who needs to call me.
And all the compliments that we all got this last week after we requested them, y'all are awesome. That helps so much.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
It did.
So this is my first time to sit down with a candidate. Congratulations on that one there, Mr. Stovall. Really appreciate you coming by.
It's good to have you on the show, Casey.
Yeah.
We're really pleased you're here.
You're a brave man.
Right.
So y'all can find everything Dwayne at DwayneStovall.com or www.TexansForStovall.com, and on Facebook, Texans for Stovall. And Facebook has all your upcoming appearances. You've been a busy man.
Very.
When was the last time you were home? Where is home?
Liberty County. I live outside of Cleveland, Texas, over on the east side, about an hour and 15 minutes northeast of Houston.
Well, you don't talk funny.
I don't talk funny?
No.
For being from East Texas?
Yeah, from being from East Texas, you don't talk funny.
Well, you know, maybe you talk funny and I talk funny too. We just don't know it.
Well, we've got 30 minutes to find
Texan.
out. So.
Right?
So there's only one correct answer here, but where has been your favorite stop so far?
Oh, I'm sitting in it.
There you
Oh,
go.
thank you.
Look at that. Smart man. Look at that.
Very smart man.
Catches on quick.
Obviously married.
Obviously.
So can we learn a little bit about you? Where'd you grow up?
Wow, that's a really long storyline. No, what you need to know is my family's been in Texas almost 200 years. We are very Texas centric in everything we do. That's the reason if you follow our campaign, you're gonna find it kind of ODing on Texas, if that's even possible. I'm not sure you can actually.
think so.
We're big OD over Texas.
Yeah, I don't
We're
think you
big enough
can
to
either.
handle it.
I don't think you can either. My wife and I have been married almost 29 years. We've got 3 children.
Which one's your favorite?
The
was just kidding.
one I'm talking to at the moment. You laugh. I used to tell them that individually. I'd say you're my favorite.
Oh, yeah. No,
Yeah.
tell him all the
Well,
time.
and one of his children is a lawyer, one is a banker, and the third?
He's an anarchist. He and I get along very, very well.
Nice.
Yeah. He dislikes any authoritarian stuff. He don't want anybody ruling over anybody, especially himself. So he and I get along pretty good.
I'll bet.
What did your parents do?
I was raised in Oilfield.
Okay.
I was actually born in Baytown, Texas. Lived the first 10 years of my life in what would have been what everyone would call the Humble Camp. Anybody that remembers the old camps owned by the oil companies?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody remembers Humble?
Yeah, Humble. If you remember Humble, you know what Humble Camp is. Humble is the precursor to Esso and Exxon, Big Exxon. That's where it comes from. But pretty broad expanse of life experience. Spent most of my formidable years in New London, Texas, outside of Tyler.
All right.
That's where I met my wife. We've known each other since we were like 14.
Aww.
That's nice.
So it's so sweet.
Yes, it
really
is sweet.
So, no, she's the best. You wouldn't want to do this if you didn't have somebody that was in lockstep with you. It'd be bad
I can
news.
understand.
Yeah, I understand that.
Because
Totally.
we travel so much, and Texas is so large. But the interesting thing is about that, I don't know many people that treat Texas kind of like their backyard, and I always have. We've owned a company we started Diamond K Equipment in 1996, and we built bridges for the highway department for almost 15 years.
Oh, awesome.
And I've built probably 60 bridges across the state of Texas. So traveling around Texas has always been kind of a piece of cake for me. So everybody tells me, I get these questions, oh, you're going to visit every county in the state, like Beto or somebody. And I go, well, how many times? Because I've probably hit every county in the state at least once, maybe twice, over the course of the last 20 years of my life.
Okay.
So
thank you for qualifying that.
Yeah, right. No, I'm not doing that every day. But yeah, traveling around Texas is a blast to me. I love Texans, and we kind of have a very specific mentality, and everybody kind of sees things similarly.
It's
granted,
diverse, though.
It's very diverse.
well, it depends on what you call diverse.
I think geographically.
Oh yeah, you have every horizon you want. You can get here in Texas for sure. I get a kick out of the term diverse though, because if you go to Texans for Stovall on Facebook, there is a video that we released last week that's pinned to the top of that page, and it gets into really my core existence as why I'm running for this office, and that is that Texans share a very similar mentality. And it doesn't want to. Race is not part of it.
Correct.
And it's
I do not think of race in the diversity.
Right. Well, I make the comment that it doesn't matter whether I'm in Perryton, which is on the border of Oklahoma and the Panhandle, or whether I'm in Brownsville, or whether I'm in Beaumont, or whether I'm over in El Paso, and it doesn't matter which end of the spectrum you're on. It can be black, brown, white. Doesn't matter. If you're talking to Texans and as long as you don't bring in the national political paradigm, as long as you don't bring in national politics, we sound exactly the same. I hate to tell you that, but we sound very, very similar. One of the things that I know y'all didn't intend to get into this, but to kind of open the door to it, one of the things that I intend to do is to really reach the Hispanic or the Tejano population of Texas, which is a dominant force.
Yes, sir.
Who, in my adult life, I'm 54 years old. In my adult life, or basically in all of my life, I've never seen the Republican Party actually reach out to them in a way that was effective or in any serious way. And that's a completely untapped, conservative thinking demographic in our state. And when I say we're all similar, we are all very similar. So
what's your strategy with that? Sorry, I cut you off.
Well, I've traveled the Valley a lot. I've worked in the Valley a lot. The only thing I kick myself for, and I get people who get into you need to speak English. You're here in this country, and a lot of my Hispanic friends will tell you the same thing, and I agree with them. But on a personal note, I could kick myself for not learning Spanish growing up because I worked next to them all my life. And I wish I would have, just because.
Some of that didn't come through by osmosis.
Well, yeah, I can hire and fire in Spanish real easy, but really picking up the language and focusing on it, I wish I would have. That said, when you are talking in the Valley with predominantly, let's say you've got a predominantly Catholic audience, long-time marriage, many children, believe in life, don't believe in abortion, believe in property rights, believe in the government staying out of their lives, believe in pulling themselves up by their bootstraps, helping their community, being charitable where their heart guides them. These are principles that are very Texas. Yes, they apply to some other states, but we're here in Texas, and this is kind of the foundational moment for us. We are needing to centralize our own thinking. We've got to come together, and that's not a party aspect. That's a Texas aspect.
Yes.
And I've talked about this for so long with friends of mine in across the Valley and into West Texas. I think it can be done. I literally think it can be done. It's not going to be done by John Cornyn. John Cornyn is never going to reach that voting block. He's going to get, if he works his way through this March primary, I don't think he will. I think he's going to lose. He'll never win in November.
I didn't think he was running.
Oh, I think it's Conley.
Yeah,
that's not. It's Conley that's not.
That's who it is.
Your guy's not running.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not my guy.
Well, I didn't go there. No.
Okay. Yeah.
We'll get back to Cornyn in a minute.
Mixed
I got a really cool quote that you gave to the Blue Bonnet News about him. So something that really blows my mind. I'm an incredibly nervous person. So for someone to think I'm good enough to do this job, I just can't wrap my head around it. I think I'm screwing up all the time. So what do you think in your life has given you that confidence? And were you able to put that across to your kids as well?
Yeah, I think so. I think. I've been very, very blessed with my kids. You made the comment a while ago that one of my kids is a lawyer, my daughter, and my oldest boy is a banker. And the joke that goes along with that is anybody that's ever known me knows that my entire adult life I've absolutely raised Cain about lawyers and bankers. So I tell people all the time, if you're a believer, be careful what you say. The Lord's got a funny sense of humor, But that said, I've been very blessed. My kids are just top notch. My youngest, he's 13, just about 13, and I got him from 13 to 27.
Ah.
Yeah. So
You
he's
sound like my son, 14 to 22.
he's a
Close.
really smart cat. I mean, a really smart cat, scary kind of smart, and very developed philosophically and maturity-wise. And if you're around him, you'd never know he was 13. But my oldest boy's like that too. My daughter is very, very bright, social butterfly. She's the one that never met anybody that didn't like her. She didn't like them, that kind of person.
Did you public school them?
Yes, I actually sat on the school board of our local school district for a number of years. The joke with the people that knew me was I advocate for homeschooling all the time. And they say, you're the one out there saying homeschooling is the way to go, and you're on the school board. We would think you would homeschool your kid. And my other two were already out of school then. And I said, well, we do homeschooling, but we send him out every day on a field trip to see how it's not supposed to be done. That's kind of the issue. If public education is such a problematic situation now. I mean, golly.
Yeah, not just Texas, all over.
Oh, all over. Well, it's because the federal government's got involved,
Yeah.
and they shouldn't be involved at all.
I'd like to ask you a question. You talked about getting the Hispanic vote. With the Democrats working so furiously getting that Spanish vote, my husband is Spanish. He's from Mexico. Well, how do you plan on getting them over to the Republican view? Do you have any?
What is your approach?
What is your approach to that? Yeah.
Well, let me clarify something. I had somebody say, how are you going to reach out to, what plans do you have to reach out to the black vote, the Hispanic vote, women, and all that in a question? And I said, I got no plan to do any of that. My plan is to reach Texans. So I don't really care. And to back you up just a little bit, yes, I spent the first 10 years of my life in Baytown, born in what we said that Humble Camp. But you have to understand, I was the baby of 4. The Humble Camp had converted into employee-owned homes that were already selling. By the time I started school, it was the edge of the neighborhood called Oakwood Subdivision. If you went to Baytown and you went to Oakwood, you crossed the railroad tracks to get to it and to get away from it, both sides. I went to an all-black elementary school, an all-black high school converted to an elementary school after desegregation. Oakwood was a black neighborhood. If you walked out of my front door, you would turn right, you would speak Spanish. You turn left, you go into an all-black neighborhood. It was all black one way and Mexican the other way. This is just the nature of the beast. So the whole aspect of breaking people up by cultural or racial divides, I don't even know what to say to that. I don't care. If you can't be honest and the message doesn't sell itself, then you're not doing it. It's not working.
That's true.
Yeah.
And what I bring to the table, really, you're not even dealing with how do you market to a particular demographic. What you have to approach them with is, are you going to make the decisions that you're going to make based on your own thought processes and what I say, or are you going to vote generationally? Because that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with generational voting.
Right.
I vote this way because Mom did, Dad did, Grandpa
Yes.
did. And when you start tapping into that, I can't tell you the number of Democrat voting, and they're not hard Democrats. Vast majority of Texas, the Tejano population is not what you would call hard Democrat. It's generational voting, and they don't like the direction that the Democrat Party is going, but they're not really. They can't really see themselves voting for a Republican because Republicans, they're just whatever, and that can be tapped. I think you can change the discourse there. You're not going to do it with a almost 2-decade incumbent who's just one of the old standard white guys with the big government view that he wants to rule your life. That's not going to happen.
That's a good segue. So we've got your quote here from the Bluebonnet News from September 5th. And you were talking about Senator John Cornyn, and you had some possibly could be conceived as harsh words, but I thought it was fun. So you said, Cornyn has routinely disappointed Texans for almost 2 decades. He's not a fighter. He's a compromiser. He embraces climate change, red flag laws, gun control, and no one will forget his vote to allow Obamacare's funding to go forward, or his many votes to allow the government to illegally collect our phone calls, emails, and texts. There is no way John Cornyn should go unchallenged through the primary. Conservative Texans deserve better, much better. So,
There's nothing mean about that. It's truthful.
I just said it could be conceived
matter
as
of fact,
harsh.
I
thought it was fun.
I thought I was being pretty soft around the edges on that. You ought to hear me now.
Well, you want to go? I mean,
If
got a microphone?
the
We're not
point
recording.
is,
You,
if
you
it
can
was-
be like Saban and I. We're truthful, and
There's only one way to be,
that's
yes.
that's right. I feel as long as you're telling the truth,
exactly.
it doesn't matter.
When I was on the radio in the Panhandle, they asked me, how did you do that? For your listeners that don't know, I ran for U.S. Senate in 2014, and I pulled double digits in the primary. And he asked me on the air in Lubbock or Abilene, wherever I was at, he said, so how do you explain that? How do you explain pulling double digits in a state as large as Texas with just $70,000? And I said, because the truth sells. You don't have to. It doesn't take any money to be truthful. If you tell the truth, people know it. If they know you're honest, they stick to you. But it costs millions of dollars to make a mule look like Secretariat.
That's yeah.
So, Senator Cornyn's held his seat since 2002. So, by the time of the election, it'll be 18 years. What do you think about term limits for these guys?
I have a different viewpoint about that. We absolutely need term limits today, but mine is more of a historical reason. It's not so much people are just mad at who's in office.
What would your term limit be?
Oh, I don't know. Whatever we'd agree to. 2 terms, 1 term, I don't care.
Having been in a municipal office here, the first term to me,
It's a
even though it's
learning-
2 years long, it was the learning curve.
Sure.
So once you get through that first term, you have a lot more knowledge of what you're doing and how the system works, so to speak. And
What if you're going there to wreck the system?
Huh?
Oh, okay. I got that. Yeah.
Well, you just.
I mean, because it
You
could
have to
only
kinda learn
take
the
like
ropes.
6 months.
You've heard
certain
me. You've heard me
situations.
talk a little bit, and I am of the belief that if you don't have a pretty good grasp of the authorities of the office and the limits of the office that you're going for, and you think that you're going to go there to do on-the-job training the first term you're in, you're not my guy. If you better know what you're doing when you hit the ground.
I agree with that to a point, but if you have to have been involved with the system, not necessarily officially, but be knowledgeable about what's going on.
That's up to the individual.
That's what I'm
I've
saying.
never held office like this. But I
Well-
can tell you right now, I will make more waves than any other person you've ever seen and do it legitimately. Just because of my own self-study. There is no, and you've heard me say this before, I tell people all the time, the idea that people are going to come forward and say, they've been thinking about this a really long time, and they've been praying about it, and they've talked to their spouse, and they've talked to their kids, and it's weighing on their heart, and blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
Yes, it's
I've
super
been
nauseous.
I feel called to go serve. See, I'm the guy now in my development personally. When people say stuff like that, I just go off. It's just like, oh, that's wonderful. What does that even mean? What does that mean? What are the limits of the office you want? What are the authorities of the office you want? What's your agenda? How do you plan to get there? What mechanism are you going to use to get that done? What question are you going to answer that I already know the answer to? I mean, these are things that these people don't have a grasp of, and they get in. Then you figure out they go get into office. They really didn't have a grasp of what they were doing anyway, and they get caught up in the system, and then they're trying to manipulate the system. And then I get back to the same question: if you're just telling me you're more conservative than the other guy, I don't need you. If you're telling me you're going to go there and you're just going to get a hold of the system and you're going to manage it better than the other guy, I don't need you. I need people that are going there to wreck the part of the system that's no good.
Exactly. And
Sorry. You're listening to Waxwing and Murray here on Lone Star 102.5. Thanks for tuning in. We're here with candidate Dwayne Stovall, who is taking on Senator John Cornyn on March 3rd in the primary election. You can find more at texansforstovall.com and on Facebook under the same name. So there's a lot of words going around about Texas turning blue. There are 10 Democrats running. Is anyone sticking out to you as a likely opponent, or?
No, that's a plethora of really undeveloped ideologies over there. I'm just whatever they bring forward, let them bring it. Because if you're honest with Texans about the core values that they have, a Democrat wouldn't be able to stand in Texas. But if you get caught up in the national red versus blue paradigm, where it becomes team mentality, and you separate yourself from the core values that make us Texans, you're going to get run over. And that's what's happening in Texas right now. Texas is basically controlled by about 5 or 6 different counties right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The big ones.
The big ones: Houston,
Yeah,
Dallas, San Antonio.
that are overrun with basically progressive ideology of people who've moved in from the east and west coast or outside of the state, and some move here, fully embrace that Texas mentality, that they're a godsend for people to move in like that. But there are those who move here just want to bring a little piece of Michigan or Detroit or whatever.
Well, they have moved here for specific reasons, not just.
Well, it's I don't know.
When
I
you
don't know
look
what-
at the amount of which states are moving to Texas,
Right.
there's a whole lot of Californians, and I would move if I was
sure.
in California.
Sure, I would too.
Because why? You know, California's nuts.
Well, we're a low tax rate, generally. Somewhat, I guess, depending on where you're at.
compared to California.
I could go taxations or theft really easy.
Well, one of the
Taxes or theft.
propositions on the ballot, I spoke to a gentleman last night, and he said that if you ask me how I'm going to vote on the new propositions, he said, I'm going to vote no on everything except for the one about the state income tax, which is yes, which means no state income tax.
Right.
Who gets to decide the wording? I mean, who is the one that?
That's your legislators.
That's
Actually, it's going to be the attorneys in their office,
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody
legislative council.
legalese.
They're going to be the ones putting forward the language. That's why it always comes out looking like,
That you can't understand it.
like a foreign language
If
of
they
the doctor
can't,
writing
yeah.
a script or something.
You can be super smart, but if you can't talk to people, I'm just saying, it doesn't get you anywhere.
Well, James Madison said, "Don't write laws that are so convoluted and wordy that the average citizen can't read them." And boy, they didn't listen to that.
No.
So
Not lately.
So voluminous is what he said. Don't write them so voluminous. Well,
So you brought up Texas education earlier, and so your website says the citizens of each state, not the federal government, have the authority to manage education. Nationalized education, Common Core, has no business in Texas. So how has Common Core hurt you? I'm sorry, I think I'm funny. Though really, what is your argument against Common Core?
Common Core has hurt everybody because it's don't narrow it down to just Common Core. Look at the broader scope of Common Core. It's a nationalized curriculum, regardless whether you want to call it Common Core or whatever. You can go back all the way to '82 when you got post Jimmy Carter. We're getting into the development of the national education system. There is, first and foremost, you got to understand there's no authority in the federal Constitution for the federal government to manage education. None. Zero.
Okay.
Nada. This is a completely illegal, unconstitutional act by the federal government. Then you back into some, and I've done presentations on this all over the country.
Okay.
And I'm going to share with you one example, and this usually gets people to understand the context. Let's set aside the fact that they don't have the right to do it at all. We
Okay.
know that. But they do it anyway. Look at what they do. If you were to tell the people in Spain that all the parents of all the K through 12 children in the country of Spain, that their children's educational needs, every aspect of it, when they go, what they learn, what they wear, what time they get out, how many days they're off, was going to be controlled by a handful of people in Moscow, would they ever go for it?
No.
No, of course not. They'd rise up in arms over it. Well, the people in California are 150 miles farther away from D.C. than the people in Madrid, Spain are from Moscow. But they wake up every day thinking that if they could just do education right, if we could just fix it. They're never going to fix it because they don't care. We have a Prussian-style education, not to get too far off in the weeds, but it's not about creating critically thinking individuals. It's about creating very docile, manageable masses. And until you get the federal government out of our children's lives, we're going to continue perpetuating this decline of this really soft education of
Dumbing us down.
dumbing down the population, which has been going on for a century now. So it's over a century. So it's necessity. I want the children of Texas, this is a personal thing, I want the children of Texas to have an extremely deep knowledge of their own history and have a knowledge of the founding of the United States. Texas's history is totally separate from the history of the United States, and people don't grasp that. Yes, we're a cog in the wheel of the long history of the United States, but But Texas had its own revolution, its own independence, and it was over a half a century after the revolution for the United States. We were fought generally by Mexicans with a few Anglos who had pledged their loyalty to Texas. So you get this whole. But look at what our kids are taught now. It's kind of they've kind of relegated Texas to being like one of the original states in the Union. So we're all in this big cluster of we're this big monolithic nation state, and Texas is just one of the original. No, we got our own history. I like my kids to know that. So.
If you know anything about the issue in San Antonio about the Alamo,
oh, the senator.
Oh, that's.
I'm absolutely.
Yeah, you got a guy from New Jersey running the. Or it was. I don't know if he's still doing it. Now, was running the nonprofit that was controlling all that. That was placed there by.
Well,
George P.
took it out of the hands of the daughters.
DR.
Yeah. And then it went to
Hey.
Hades in a
Our
handbasket.
fourth graders used to go as early as last year. I have two kids that are back to back in school. So my son was in fourth grade last year, got to go to the Alamo. This year, when my daughter hit fourth grade, they decided not to go because it's not fun anymore. They can't they have, even if they have an adult for each child, they've just sucked everything out of the Alamo that made it a pleasant experience, for Texan kids to, to go to. So.
Well, the idea that it's sacred ground or we pay homage there to our history is kind of gone.
Ground.
And now it's
I know.
kind of like
Oh, let's just move this. Like taking down Robert E. Lee. Hello. You can't change history. You can't erase it.
no,
Once you change it, history can repeat itself.
no, history will repeat itself.
It
Exactly.
will. And if you don't know what happened,
You're doomed to
you're
repeat it.
doomed
I've
to
heard that
repeat it,
somewhere before.
yes.
No.
But
I've
it's
heard
just
that.
What do you think about
y'all are teasing me. I'm not gonna talk anymore. Hurt my feelings.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
You'll be
But it's so obvious that that's what the federal government is trying to do, is to dummy down our
I
kids.
think
And
that's true.
Once they dummy them down, then you've got socialized.
Yeah, it's this collective nature we're all caught up in. That's the reason my campaign is so Texas-centric. It's just Texas-centric. It's about respecting the other states and the wishes of those citizens, and also requiring that we respect ourselves and asking for respect for Texans to manage our state according to our moral values and traditions. There's no real reason for us to be kind of blended together in this big homogenized identity with 330 million citizens. We're Texans, and we have a very distinct culture that we need to protect.
We do. We do.
Agreed.
So my big soapbox is standardized testing. I despise everything about it. When I lived in Utah until last year when I moved back home, and in Utah and in Colorado, you sign a waiver and your child does not participate in STAR testing. Here in Texas, they don't give you that option. There's no opt-out for state testing, and the school positions field trips around. There's punishment against the children if their parents feel like that is not the right decision. Especially, my son is on the autism spectrum, and he is still required to take the test in the same way. What do I do? What can we do?
If you can't homeschool, you're stuck.
I know, and I have to work.
So
man.
do
I
you
can't.
contact your representative? Do you make a campaign? I mean, how would you?
Well, the problem
Fix
is
that.
everything at the state level, every single discussion you take to the state level begins with, will it pass the litmus of the Supreme Court? I mean, by and large, anything you take to them, they look at through the optics of whether or not judges will allow them to do it. And that's probably the single most important reason why I run for this office.
So, let's say you contacted a legislator and in Texas and said, "I'd really like this to come forward. I'd like this to become a vote." If the Texas legislature decided that this was something they would go for, that would be a miracle. But
Oh, yeah.
if that
I'm with
happened,
you. Keep going.
Yeah. So if that happened, could they make that be just for Texas? Because if she lived in Utah and Colorado and got to sign waivers, that means they're being ruled differently than we are.
Well, ultimately, we're not dealing with education. We're dealing with money.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really come down to whether or not your representative in the state capitol in Texas is going to put it out there and it's going to get accepted. It's going to come down to a committee of people looking around and going, well, will the federal government still give us our money? So if we push back on the federal government in any way, shape, or form, and they go, well, we're not going to give you this much funding, or we'll reduce it by this much, or what, then they start backtracking real fast.
Yeah, I mean, the government puts so much pressure on the school district, who puts that pressure on the teachers, who puts that pressure on the kids, because there's so many consequences if they don't perform
It's
well
a
on these tests.
self-perpetuating decline, because even the federal government knows, the people in the federal government know they don't have the authority to be involved in it. But the Supreme Court in the early 80s ruled that when they give you money, it's a contract. You wouldn't remember this because you weren't born yet. But during and people don't like to talk about this stuff with Ronald Reagan, but there was a time in the 80s when they forced us to drive 55 miles an hour. Do you remember that?
Oh,
yes.
yeah. Yes.
Yeah, well, that was I think $250 million. They gave $250 million to every state, put in their highway funds. But you're going to take this money, but you're going to change your speed limits on your interstates to 55 or whatever it was.
Ew.
And one of the states, I don't remember if it was Montana or somebody up in that direction,
Montana, I think.
said, we'll take the money, but you're not telling us how to, And the Supreme Court under Reagan said, if you take the money, it's a contract. You got to do what they say. Well, guess where that dominoed to? Education.
Yep.
Right? Environmental.
Everything.
So all these things that we know they don't have the authority to do, everyone we walk on the street knows they don't have the authority to tell us what light bulb they're going to pick, right?
Yeah.
Or what our water pressure is going to be at our shower head. Those types of things. But they're contractual under the law. So if we're going to get the money, we have to agree to the mandates. And their out is, well, states don't have to do it. They don't have to do it. They could say no.
They just.
Well, the problem is, even with
get this
Texas,
funding.
well, I'll say something that I'm going to be very happily surprised if y'all know what I'm about to say, or y'all have heard it. In Texas, we spend on average about 45% more than we take in taxes on our budgets. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. The first number that comes to mind is always the 82nd legislature. I realize that's been a number of sessions back, but it's really easy to come to my head because we talked earlier how we forget things all the time. This one always pops up, but it's a great example. In the 82nd legislature, we took in around $82 billion in taxes, but we spent about $195 billion in that biennial. So how do we do that? Because we're Texas, right? We're supposed to be all that. And you got, everybody running around saying we're open for business, the governor at that time. And people don't want to know the truth. The truth is Texas is in debt, or we're bankrupt, basically. We don't take in enough money to pay for our own selves. We're subsidized just like every other state in the union. We all answer to the federal. If they were going to say no to anything educationally, they would have to turn to all the teachers' organizations and say, yeah, we're going to have a lower budget this year than we had last year. Do you know what would happen at the state capitol if they told the TRS that? Yeah,
Yes.
right? It'd be a meltdown.
Right.
So they're never going to do that. They're never going to say no. And the federal government is never going to stop implementing more and more progressive nonsense on us. And if anybody's questioning that, I don't know what to tell you. Politics doesn't move right. It just doesn't move right. It moves left until it dies and falls on its face and starts over again, and that'll be the most righteous and morally correct it'll ever be again. The moment it starts becoming successful, or it starts going left again. It's crazy about people.
Where does the overspending come from?
The fact that government generally brings the worst people to it, who are trying to do grandiose ideas for the collective that they could otherwise not do because they're dealing with other people's money and they don't have any skin in the game. I can go make all kinds of mistakes with hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars of your money and just go, aw, shucks.
Yeah, I what I read in different areas is that because of the structure of the school system, as in too many supervisors, too much layering of personnel that don't really.
Oh, well, if you were to graph and I'm talking specifically to education in Texas, if you were to graph the expense and expanse of Texas education, by and large, I mean like grossly above all the others, is the space between the local school districts and their school boards and the State Board of Education. It's the bureaucracy between those two items where people are constantly proving their are justifying their existence, and then creating new programs and justifying more people, and you end up with all these layers of administrative costs between this. Very little of that money actually gets to the teacher or the classroom. So it's.
What do you think about the Robin Hood system?
I think it's nonsense.
Thank you.
I think it's nonsense. Well, you want to talk about Cornyn on that? That's part of his baby.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Got a link to where y'all can find his scorecard. If you go to www.conservativereview.com/scorecard/John-Cornyn, and not as strictly Republican as one might expect.
No,
He's got a very low liberty score. I've never been on that website before, so
I follow that all the time.
I get a newsletter, the Texas Scorecard.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You to deal with federal, or should we call it national politics? They're not very federal anymore. You have to narrow it down to the big issues. You can't argue over little small fractionary things that they do that they try to campaign on. You really have to look at the larger scope of things and what affects us. Things like growing the debt, things like growing spending, things like growing the size and scope of the government, things like I don't know, those who vote for budgets that force us to be financial partners in an industry that murders children and sells their body parts, right? So if you look at John Cornyn will, around election time, when he actually will say something because he's trying to fight for his power, he'll go to the microphone in the chamber when nobody's there, and he'll make a little speech, and he'll say, those Democrats, those dastardly Democrats, right? They want to grow the debt. They just want to spend too much money. They want to grow the government. They want to fund Planned Parenthood. These are all really bad things. And then he'll leave the microphone and go to the floor, and he'll vote with the Democrats
every time.
to grow the debt, to grow the government, to grow the spending, to fund Planned Parenthood, to fund Obamacare, all of these things. So what the difference between John Cornyn and a run-of-the-mill Democrat is that a run-of-the-mill Democrat is honest, and John Cornyn just lies to us perpetually for almost 2 decades. Now, granted, he has voted against increasing the debt before. He voted for it one time in 2010. It wasn't even his election cycle, but if you remember the Tea Party movement, when it got really hot, he voted against it in October. The election was over in November, and he went and voted for the next CR in February. That's kind of the trend. It's a little bit of political opportunism, if you ever, So it's, for me, for a guy like me who understands the role of a U.S. Senator, which is to protect the best interest of your state, by and large, above all things. That's what the point is. And you have happened to have paid close attention to his voting record, there's no question. He's got to go. This man's got to leave as fast as possible.
Yeah, like I said, I have followed it since 2016, and it seems like every time he votes with the Democrats. He doesn't stand up for...
There was an interview, and we were trying to find it. There was an interview he gave in San Antonio, and the interviewer was asking him, it was back during the Obamacare fiasco. Remember when Ted Cruz was doing the filibuster and all that stuff? He was going after him about not standing with Ted Cruz on the floor during the debate. Because that's your last vestige, that's your last opportunity to make an argument. It's kind of like going down to the wire, regardless of the voting line. That's your chance to fight the battle politically. And he never raised his head. As a matter of fact, he voted for cloture to stop the debate and make it so they could go ahead and vote on it and get it passed. And yes, he voted against the movement, but he never fought it. And he voted against any campaign on, well, I'm against Obamacare. Well, yeah, but you made it so that they could hurry up and get it through. Anyway, on the interview, they referenced him not being on the floor supporting Ted Cruz during Ted Cruz's filibuster. And he said, well, if I'm going to try and tell you as close as I can. He said, well, this comes down to just a difference of opinion in tactics between me and Senator Cruz. And the guy said, tactics? He said, this is nationalized health care. This is the government overtaking a private industry. And, he needs to be supported in that. And he goes, well, it's just a difference in tactics. And the guy says something to the effect of, Well, I'm glad that the men at the Alamo didn't feel that way. And hey, you laugh. And John Cornyn says, well, look what it got him.
Oh my gosh.
And I went, that's it. Oh, my, you've got to be kidding me. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, look how that turned out.
Dang.
Yeah.
Honest
So,
and strong
well, that
and
kind of
daring.
plays into what you said a while ago about my quote. He's never been a fighter. There's really no principle that he won't fold on. There's none that he won't negotiate on. Not your guns, not your individual liberty. Good Lord, he's the biggest proponent there is out there of the government spying on you. So the oath of office doesn't mean anything to him. The idea that he's going to protect Texas doesn't mean anything to him. The idea that he's going to protect your right to self-defense doesn't mean anything to him. He's going to sit across the table from Dianne Feinstein and negotiate what he calls smart gun regulation. Well, what it comes down to is we are here in Texas, and John's just trying to tell us that we're just too stupid to manage our own lives. And lucky for us, we've got him up there and all of his little cronies, and they're smarter than we are, and they just need to leave. We need to leave it to them. They'll manage our lives for us. And folks, I don't do serfdom well.
We have some politics like that here in town. Politicians.
Don't drag me into that mud hole.
So, yeah, you claim to be a fifth-generation Texas. Well, I've got a How Texan Are You quiz from Texas Monthly to wrap
crud.
things
It better
up.
be
Yeah.
multiple choice.
It is, don't worry.
You know I can't remember
So
what I had for breakfast.
we've all taken it today, and Vicky did very well. Sabin slightly less so, and I got a perfect score because no one was here when I took it today.
Yeah, right.
So, all right, here we go. What famous Texas actor played Will Smith's partner in the Men in Black movie series? Matthew McConaughey, Tommy Lee Jones, Ethan Hawke, or Woody Harrelson?
What kind of question is that? Tommy Lee Jones. I know who it is. But dadgum,
There's some harder ones. We'll get there.
I missed it.
did you really?
What is the former name of Austin? Alamo, Waterloo, Guadalupe, Red River.
The former name of Austin.
Now that
Nobody
one,
else
that's
is-
what
I
I
missed
missed.
that one
That's
for
what
sure.
I missed.
What was it again?
Alamo, Waterloo, Guadalupe, or Red River?
I'd say Guadalupe.
See, that makes sense.
It was
doesn't
Waterloo.
Oh, Waterloo.
Waterloo. How in the heck did they get Waterloo?
I don't know. I just knew
That's
they were
Louisiana.
Waterloo records. That
See,
was all
she
I got.
knew.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
That's
All right.
Louisiana.
Who said the famous quote, "You may all go to hell and I will go to Texas"? And Crockett Keller, if you're listening, that was a quote from a Texas legend. I'm allowed to say hell. All right. Anyway. It's a totally separate thing. I apologize. Anyways.
Davy.
There we go.
Davy.
That's right.
I got called a radio Nazi earlier this week for asking someone to not swear on my radio station.
You're doing well.
I know. He said it was a compliment, so I'm
You're
going with it.
doing well.
What Texas company sponsored the first ever taping of Austin City Limits? HEB, Lone Star Beer, Whataburger, or Buc-ee's?
Say that again. Well, that was quick. And what was the question?
What Texas company sponsored the first ever taping of Austin City Limits? HEB, Lone Star Beer, Whataburger.
Oh, that was Lone Star Beer. No.
I saw that, Vicky.
No, that was Lone Star Beer.
Don't help the man cheat.
Hey,
His
you
integrity's on the line.
can guess that one just on age.
There you go.
Just on the age of the business.
Oh, wait a minute. Now, wait a minute. I got most of the answers. That's. Oh,
I don't mean your age.
thank you.
I'm talking about the. All right.
The age
How
of
many-
the company?
How many
I'm putting the
miles
shovel
long
down.
is the San Antonio Riverwalk? 2, 4, 10, or 15?
How long is it? Mm-hmm. Couldn't tell you.
Well, A, B, C, or D. Just say a letter then, because we got to pick an
C.
answer. All right, you're wrong. It's 15.
Couldn't tell you.
I got that one wrong, too. All right.
I
Oh,
got that
well.
one right. Yay. I'm from San Antonio. I hope I got it right.
What does the Lone Star symbolize? The North Star, Lone Star Beer, Dallas Cowboys, Texas's previous status as an independent republic.
The previous status, baby. You better believe it.
Yeah, that's a no-brainer.
What is the name of the tallest cowboy in the world who towers above Texas at the Texas State Fair?
Oh, come on.
Do you need the multiple choices on this one?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Big Tex, Wild Bill,
There
Cowboy
you go.
Carl.
You're
Yeah.
good. You're good.
Who is known as the father of Texas? Davy Crockett, Stephen F.
Sam?
Austin.
It's Stevie.
Good, I didn't have to say the hard name because I didn't know how to pronounce it. How many miles is it from El Paso to Orange, the easternmost town on Interstate 10?
906.
All right, well, there's 854 or 965.
See, I said 965. But
It's 854.
See, I
According
think
to
that's wrong.
906 is right. I know because I clocked it.
Yeah, you've traveled it a few times.
All right, TexasMonthly.com, you have been called out.
Yeah.
What is the town George Strait, the king of country, trying to make it to by morning?
Amarillo.
There you go.
Where do you get this stuff?
Texas Month.
Texas Monthly.
Texas Monthly.
She comes up with some doozies.
Oh my
I
goodness.
have
have
to
been
have
worse.
fun at work, okay? What is the fictional Texas town that's the setting for the long-running show, King of the Hill? Did you watch that one? Because neither one of them even had heard of the show.
Never heard of it.
Have you heard of
I
the
know
show?
what it is.
Okay.
Oh, you do?
That's hang on. Is there options?
Yeah.
Okay.
Fort Austin, Hallis, Arlen, or Santa
Arlen.
Cruz. Yeah. There you go. Nice.
Look at that.
What is the only natural lake found in Texas? All others are man-made. Do you know this one, or do you need the choices?
You know that one.
I
Look
didn't,
where you
I didn't know
live.
this one.
Where do you
All right.
live?
Got Lake Texoma, Caddo Lake, Louisville Lake, or Lake Buchanan.
I'm guessing. I would say Caddo.
There you go. I got that one wrong. Although
Did
I
you
got
really?
it. Yeah, I didn't know that one. All right. Your
That's
score
probably
is 9 out of 12. Wow, you're a Texan through and through. Saban got,
Yeah,
she must be first
those
generation.
aren't Texas questions.
I didn't make the
Generation.
quiz
Fourth generation.
That's pop culture. Just
Thank you.
about
That's what I
Texas.
was thinking.
So I'll try harder next time. You can
Give me
find
some questions about Stevie Ray Vaughan.
So we do a little something called Something Good to end the show on because we've been accused possibly of being slightly negative about our
Oh, wait a
community.
minute. You
So-
haven't let me.
You've been talking politics. How else are you going to be?
No, no.
No.
There's nothing positive about politics.
Yeah, there is.
Oh yeah, tell me what that is. I can carry it with me.
We've seen some good outcomes here
Yeah.
and there.
Oh, locally.
They'll fight.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
They'll come together and.
I'm up here in the
This
swamp
is-
cesspool area.
So we say we cover local, state, and national news, but this may be our first or second outreach to outside of local. So we're working on it. We're new.
Well, you know,
Fantastic.
I want to say one thing about some comments that were made in letters to the editor this year or this week.
You're going to go
Hey.
negative.
Today the newspaper
No,
came out.
not really. I mean, some people may think we're going negative, but if we are out there and we are informing the people of what is really happening and we're telling the truth, we are not being negative. And that's just somebody with a very narrow mind.
It's okay. The rest of us are good.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
love Mason like a lot. It's our home,
And,
and
you know, and no one said anything rude until a commissioner started insulting people in the audience and calling our mayor and our city management incompetent and liars.
and that one time on air when I said that I would fight anyone to defend John.
Yeah.
Please don't make me actually fight. I don't know that I'm as
Well,
tough
you've
as
got
I,
lots
as I
of
believe
people
I am.
behind you. Trust me. I'm mighty, but I'm small.
I mean, I just got. I had to say that because that really bothers me, but I'm really glad you're here today, and we got a change of pace.
right?
Yeah, we're having a good time.
And
Hey.
anything
Yes.
I can do for your campaign, you let me know.
Well, thank you.
Oh, and you can
Thank you.
find out
Hey, you
how
know
to
that's
help
at
that.
every level. You know,
Yeah.
if I go around the state, which I do, and then you bring up John Cornyn's voting record, there will be people that are going to say you're throwing rocks.
Yeah. This is.
And our standard answer is, well, you might want to put on a helmet.
Yeah.
'Cause it's not going to get any
That's
better.
a good idea. That's my new motto. Thank you.
Like it.
It works. Use it. Use it all you
We're
want.
gonna put on
Get your
t-shirt
armor
now.
out. Watch out.
You
We're
go
coming.
to puttingtexasfirst.com. That's the volunteer portal if you'd like to be a part of Mr. Stovall's campaign.
Yes. All you people who are living out here retired and got lots of money stashed up, just donate it.
Or
I
free
wish.
time.
You're limited to how much you can give anyway, but we're raising money right now.
So for something, we're just adding this something good at the end of the show the last couple of weeks, and just a chance to end on a positive note for whatever we've noticed this week that made us love our home a little more. I know your time in Mason has been rather brief, Mr. Stovall, but is there anything you've seen of our fine folks that stuck out to you?
Oh, everybody's sweet as they can be. I think this little town is just beautiful.
Thank you.
I think the idea that your population is so small is very enticing.
There are
It is enticing.
36 kids in the 4th grade class right now.
It's
Found that out this
fantastic.
morning. They have 12
Fantastic.
kids in the class, and
I
it
love
is
it.
awesome.
My wife and I totally dig that. We came from a town with 800, so
There it is.
Well, yeah. Go ahead. What's your positive?
Oh, Laura.
is it that hard?
Well,
It's been cold. We've been inside.
it's been cold and I've been inside, but I think the most positive thing for me is my upcoming trip to Alaska.
Oh wow.
She's leaving us, and
Yes,
she's
I'm
excited about it.
leaving for 6 weeks, and I'm excited.
6.
I know.
Gonna go hunt moose? What are you gonna do?
No,
She wishes.
I was born and raised here, but I lived in Alaska for 27 years.
No kidding.
So all my kids are still up there, and I have got
Anchorage or
grandbaby.
Fairbanks?
My daughter lives down in Soldotna,
Oh.
Kenai, and my grandson is in Fairbanks. He works up in Prudhoe.
Ah,
And you spent some time in Alaska, right?
yeah. I spent a couple of years there when my father
I
worked on the
Googled you a
pipeline.
lot. That was less
that's
weird.
how,
to
that's
say.
how I got up
I
there.
learned to ski when I was 10. I loved to ski.
Whoa.
Where did you live?
Just on the edge of Anchorage.
Uh,
Yeah, I went to Chinook Elementary School.
yes.
That's fun to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Name a pet, Chinook.
I had my mucklucks.
Yeah, me too. Mucklucks and my fur mittens.
Mucklucks and a cowboy hat.
Yeah, yeah.
What else? Yeah.
It's a different world up there, isn't it?
Very much so. It's one place in the wintertime and looks totally different in the summertime.
Oh, the summers make going through the winter worth it.
No.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Well, the coldest I got to live in, I had the opportunity to live in Coldfoot for 2 years. And the coldest I ever saw it was up there, and it was 87 below zero.
Oh,
That's
darn.
not right.
And the wind was blowing at 50 miles an hour. So I don't know how that calculates out. But I know the guys, they couldn't go out and plow because the wind was blowing the snow up. They went out to plow, and the cold, it just busted those steel blades.
My father worked at Point Barrow,
Oh, yeah.
the most
Somehow
northern.
this does not
Yeah.
sound enticing to me.
No, it's not.
No.
It's not.
Thank you. No. I'd rather go with my positive for the week.
What is your
and
positive for the
I was in Willow Creek today and happened to see a lady going through who works there, and she had her arms full of pizza and 2 packages of cookie dough, and she said, "I bought these to give to people who are in need, who
That's
might just
great.
need a little
There you go.
something." And I said, "So wait, did you buy these to sell to raise money for people?" She said, "No, I bought these
Just
to
give
give
them
away."
away. That's
Yeah,
wonderful.
that's great.
So that's Mason supporting
Yeah,
itself.
that is one thing. Mason always comes together to support anybody in need. If we have a fundraiser for somebody with cancer or anything like a special needs surgery or in a
Somebody
bad
has
car
passed
accident,
away, and
yeah, I mean this town, we've got heart.
That's the best aspect of the size town. Best.
And so people say, "Well, what are you doing, Mason?" Well, last weekend there were so many choices. Mason is the wettest dry county in Texas. So last weekend you could actually have a wine pub crawl.
Wow.
So, which all of it's within walking distance. That's a plus. So you could do that. There was a costume party. There was there was just all kinds of things going
The
on.
Art
Okay.
Fest, yeah.
Yes, we have an art fest during the day. People were painting on the sidewalk, and you could go in the stores or buy their wares, and so it's just there's too much to do sometimes. It's amazing.
Oh, Casey, don't forget to announce what we're doing tomorrow night.
I'm getting to it. Yeah.
And our special guest.
So my something good this week is the rain. I mean, so like I said, the weather kept me indoors a lot because it was cold, so I didn't get to get out and see the great things Mason and I have been up to. But I love fall. I love Halloween. I love my rain boots and my pretty sugar skull umbrella. So this week was just a dream for me. I don't enjoy the cold as much, but I looked adorable, so it was totally worth it. And then to plug our passion project here, Vicki, on the Lone Star front porch, literally, we have our pumpkin contest. Carve up your best design. There's still a little time if you want to get it in today. The voting ends tomorrow at 8, and then Vicki and I will be announcing the winner tomorrow during Lone Star Hollow. That starts at 9 p.m., and it's my time to scare the bejesus out of myself here in the studio on the spookiest night of the year. So Vicki's going to join me and bring her guard dog Bella to protect us.
And she's going to be in costume.
Yeah, me and the dog will be in costume. I don't know what Vicki's
Yes.
doing yet.
I don't need one.
There's also at the Fall Festival at River of Life Church from 5:30 to 7. The Anna Martin Cowgirl Hall of Fame exhibit at the Mason Square Museum is tomorrow at 10 a.m. There's coffee and refreshments. You can meet and greet with the Martin family and special guest. And it's a video produced by the National Cowgirl Museum and Hall of Fame, along with photos and other important facts and stories about the life of the awesome Anna Meebus Martin. I'm really looking forward to that. Charlie, I'm taking off at 10 for a minute. Hope he's listening. But and then next week will be the first Wednesday in November, so we'll have Miss Fran Herster back with us to continue our History of Mason series. We've had so much positive feedback on, and so please tune into that. You don't want to miss it, and we'll find out what happened to make Mason the great place it is today. So, any closing thoughts?
No, we just want to thank Mr. Stovall for
Yes, thank
coming
you
in
very
and
much.
visiting with us
Hey,
today,
you're
and
more
good
than
luck in
welcome.
your
I appreciate it.
campaign.
Absolutely. This was
This is fantastic.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm serious. You just tell me what to do and point me in the right direction.
Hey, anybody that wants to get involved can go to puttingtexasfirst.com and create a profile. You'll be in the camp. We've got 1,400 plus volunteers. I got the biggest campaign in the state.
I was
by far.
awesome.
I was one of the first volunteers to arrive in Iowa for Senator Cruz.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was a neat experience.
Did you have your passport? That's a foreign country, isn't it?
It was after I got up there.
Oh, hey, good news, guys. My request for time off has been approved. So, you've been listening to Waxwing and Murray, where every Wednesday you can find out about the local or state issues that are impacting us right here in Mason. Thank you again to Dwayne Stovall for sitting down with us, and you can find more information about him at www.texansforstovall.com and on Facebook under the same name, and that's got some of his upcoming appearances if you'd like a chance to sit down and talk with this cowboy-hatted individual. Oh, sorry, y'all can't see his hat. It's a really nice hat. To continue the conversation or to let us know your thoughts and propose future episode ideas or questions, look for Waxwing and Murray on their very own Facebook page. Thank you once again to our sponsors, Designs by Ramon, making your rock or tile work dreams come true. Ramon can help, and you can reach him by calling 325-347-2382. Keller Electric, when quality and experience matter, and David and Michelle Holt with Custom Tree and Lawn Service. If you'd like to find out who represents you in the city and how to reach them, you can find that information at mason.tx.citygovt.org. Or to find the county commissioners, go to www.co.mason.tx.us. How could I mess that up? If you like what we're doing here and would like to sponsor this or any of our other shows, give us a call here at Lone Star 1025 at 325-347-1025. Thanks for listening, y'all, and I hope you have a wonderful Wednesday.